Hi guys, it's me, Charles HD, and welcome to the race watch-along for the 2022 Miami Grand Prix. Finally, race day has come. We do have an exciting grid for today's Grand Prix, and hopefully you guys are as excited as I am for this Grand Prix. Going to be a great fight up front between the top two teams. These two, of course, hopefully going to be in close combat, and of course we have plenty of top drivers and some good teams in the fight in the midfield for best of the rest. It's going to be a competitive Grand Prix, no doubt about it. Will we get a ton of overtaking? We'll have to see what happens. Hopefully the track isn't as dirty offline as the drivers were saying from especially Friday here around the International Autodrome. But yeah, hopefully you guys in chat are doing well. Hopefully you're going to be with me and Nib, who I'll introduce in a moment. Hopefully you're going to watch along the race. If you can't, though, and you can only listen along, then don't worry. We'll take you through everything that happens in the Grand Prix. Now, quickly, before we get on to anything else, let me just quickly remind you guys of the qualifying results and thus the grid for the Miami Grand Prix. So, it is a Ferrari front row for the start. Charles Leclerc on pole position. Of course, Leclerc the championship leader. Carlos Sainz in second. Max Verstappen third, Sergio Perez fourth, Valtteri Bottas fifth, and then Hamilton sixth, Gasly seventh, Norris eighth, Tsunoda ninth, and Stroll 10th. And then the rest of the order is Alonso, Russell, Vettel, Ricciardo, Schumacher, Magnussen, Zhou Guanyu, Albon, Latifi, and Ocon last. The reason Ocon last and didn't do a lap in qualifying is because he cracked his chassis with his crash at turn 14 in practice 3. So that is your starting grid. Like I said, it's not a grid, I think, given the order we've seen this season. It's not something that is not surprising. I think definitely, Verstappen down in third. I don't think many people saw that coming. And obviously Mercedes' lack of pace still a bit of a surprise at this part of the season. But I'll now quickly move on to these pictures. These pictures, of course, will guide you through the action today. And I'll now bring in Nib. Nib, firstly, obviously, how you doing, mate? And great to have you on again for the first time in ages. And yeah, are you looking forward to today's race?
Hello, I'm doing very good, mate. I'm very glad to be back on, even though it is currently 5 a.m. on Monday morning here. I am extremely excited for this race. I must say, the layout is fantastic. I really do like the layout, apart from the Mickey Mouse chicane. That's not even me calling it Mickey Mouse. Some of the drivers have called it a Mickey Mouse part of the circuit. But yeah, I'm super excited, and we're just watching here with Martin Brundle. And yeah, he's trying to interview everyone, hopefully, with getting through with his life.
Yeah, hopefully doesn't get apprehended by anyone. And yeah, the track's not been the most popular. That chicane, Lewis Hamilton described as a B&Q car park, which only British people would understand what that reference means. But yeah, it's a unique track, I'll put it that way. There are some corners that are, and with the way the walls are positioned, it's definitely not typical racetrack for what we've seen previously. So it's hopefully going to produce something of interest. As Martin Brundle is
He's got him with Venus well there.
And was it DJ Khaled as well? When they going to interview him, probably doesn't even know who he is. And yeah, he's going to try and interview Venus probably for about 5 seconds. We'll just try and quickly cover the teams and what we think is going to happen today. So yeah, up front, of course, it is Ferrari 1-2, Red Bull 3-4, and then it was really. I think coming into qualifying, everyone expected it to be, as I'm pretty sure Venus just completely blanked Martin Brundle there on the grid. That was very cringeworthy. Coming into qualifying, I think everyone expected, as it has been this season, to be Leclerc versus Max for pole. And given the pace that the Red Bull showed in practice and during qualifying, I certainly thought that it would be Max who got pole position for the Grand Prix. Of course, made a mistake when it really mattered most, and then Ferrari capitalised fully on that and got a 1-2 for the start. Even though it's a great result, obviously, for qualifying, but Carlos Sainz in second place, that is going to be not the greatest place to start, because, I mean, normally at Grand Prix, you have a dirty side of the grid. This weekend, of course, with how poor the grip is offline, it's going to be probably even worse. So I'm not sure whether that 1-2 is going to last long, but I'm sure Max Verstappen will be with the two Ferraris all race long, and I'm sure Max will be, if he's not winning the race, he'll be very, very close to it. It's going to be a great fight between the two Ferraris, Max, and even probably Sergio Perez. Have I missed anything, by the way, with this grid war? Has he been assaulted yet?
No, well, it was just absolutely hilarious with Venus. Like, Venus didn't even realise that he was still next to him. Or next to her, sorry. And it was just so awkward. And then DJ Khaled's done a massive spiel. And then, of course, as he was about to go, he just dropped another one. And he doesn't even know who Dwayne Wade is right in front of him. Like, come on, mate, respect D Wade.
Yeah, he's currently trying to, now he's interviewing someone else. I don't even know who that is. I think it's a basketball player, isn't it? I can't remember what his name is. I think he plays for who, the 76ers. I can't remember what his name is.
No.
I've seen him before, but yeah, let's move back to the F1. Yeah, what do you think is likely to happen up front today then, Nib? Do you think because of, Sainz starting on the dirty side of the grid, do you think Max has an instant advantage to get, right behind Leclerc? And with that straight line speed the Red Bull has, which is phenomenal compared to Ferrari, it's pretty much 10 kilometers an hour. Even though they're on pole and obviously front row, can Ferrari really stop Red Bull, or are they just sitting ducks on the straight, ready for Max to pass?
Well, quite simply, yes to the first part about the start, because the dirty side of the grid is certainly a bigger factor here than what it is at other Grand Prix, just because the track surface and how, well, let's face it, terrible it is. So yeah, it's going to be quite a big advantage for Verstappen at the start, and of course, if he gets a good start, even probably a mediocre start, he probably gets ahead of Carlos still. We've seen out of turn 17, I think it was, that they were getting absolutely no launch, as DC and Martin are about to punch on now, as they're fighting for Christian Horner. Yeah, I think it will be... Yeah, Carlos is probably going to get done by Max on the first lap, but then when it comes to Charles, I don't know, because, of course, tyre wear is going to be quite important here. And, of course, we've seen over the majority of the season that the Ferrari has been better on its tyres with more downforce, so I still think that's going to be a bit complicated.
Yeah, I was saying that in my race preview, that especially in these hot conditions, and by the way, with the weather, there has been a couple rain showers today, and there was one probably half an hour ago, maybe just over half an hour ago, more like 35, 40 minutes ago. But it's only brief showers at the track. It's definitely not enough. I mean, if it happened during the race, I'm not sure if it would be enough to, to cause the drivers to come in for intermediate tyres. It would probably be enough to cause the lap times to drop off for 2 or 3 laps, but then they would immediately get back up to speed again. So... yeah, I don't think the rain is going to play as big of a role as it did, obviously, at Imola. But, yeah, we'll see what happens with that. But if it is a hot Grand Prix, as Martin Brundle is being ignored by pretty much everyone on the grid.
I'm dying. I just need to say, he's walked up to this guy and he's like, I don't know who you are, but I'd like to know who you are. What is your name, sir?
Oh my god, I feel sorry for him because he doesn't know who everybody is. So he's just walking about saying hello to everyone. Yeah, he's doing that now, isn't he? Yeah. Oh my god. I feel so sorry. Someone needs to tell him who these people are and at least give him like a picture of some of them. Because
there's too many of them, that's the issue.
And the thing is, everyone who has like a paddock pass looks famous, so it's hard to know sometimes. Who is what. So yeah, he's just interviewing everyone now. Yeah, the temperatures today, they're going to play a role for sure. If it doesn't rain and stays hot and sunny, I think certainly you're going to see a lot of front tyre wear that's going to affect the drivers, especially in that first sector. And that's definitely going to cause, I think, some maybe early-ish pit stops, certainly around probably lap 15. I think you could probably expect the first pit stop to come here in Miami. To be honest, Sky just need to put Martin Brundle out of his misery and just end the grid walk, because I don't think he even knows where to go. But yeah, temperatures are going to be very, very important in this race. And of course, you never know, you could see some sort of reliability problems. And of course, we've seen that with Red Bull already this season, given the heat we are seeing. But we'll quickly go into some other teams. So Mercedes are currently, they're going to be 6th and 12th on the grid. Who's that? Pharrell Williams on the grid. I think he's about to interview now.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mercedes are 6th and 12th. We thought after practice 2 they made progress, and we thought they could maybe be... I mean, they were going to be behind Ferrari and Red Bull. I think everybody knew that, but we thought maybe they wouldn't be too far behind. Maybe, half a second, which is still quite a bit for them, but it's not anywhere near as bad as it, has been previously. And, I mean, technically they did make a step forward, but it isn't a step forward, like a proper step forward that you could really notice, because Lewis was 0.8 of a second off in qualifying. Russell, of course, even worse, down in P12. And obviously, Mercedes didn't even have the best of the rest tag to go with qualifying yesterday. That went to Valtteri Bottas and the Alfa Romeo. So Mercedes just still aren't quite there. I think the reason they've been closer to, say, Ferrari and Red Bull this weekend, I'm pretty sure it's because their new front and rear wing has cut a bit of drag off the car, because if you go and look at the data, and certainly the sector times, Hamilton performing much better in the faster sectors.
I'm going to have to interrupt you, but both Aston Martins are going to be starting from the pit lane.
Why?
But they're not on the grid.
Oh, right. Chris Medland is interviewing Stroll on the grid. I'll try and check Twitter for that, but
well, I've just been scrolling through Twitter, so that's why I've said.
Right.
They're not on the grid.
Well, we'll have to see whatever has happened there. But yeah, Mercedes, they've made a brief step forward by cutting their drag, but still ultimately nowhere really near the pace of Ferrari and Red Bull. Just want to come to you, Nib, on Mercedes. I mean, we thought, like I said, after practice 2, we thought they had made a step forward, but like I said, it's not really a noticeable step forward, and they're still not really clear of the midfield pack, Alfa Romeo, McLaren, AlphaTauri, and they're still in that fight by the looks of it. I mean, I think they'll finish, Hamilton will finish 5th, because I think it's good enough to get that result, but it is still difficult times, isn't it, for Mercedes?
And just confirmation that both Aston Martins are starting from the pit lane.
Right. Did you hear what I said?
No, not sorry. I was trying to find out what was going on.
Okay. I was just asking, with Mercedes, we thought they improved this weekend, and obviously they haven't quite, made that step that maybe we thought they did in practice 2. Just at the minute, what are your overall thoughts for Mercedes? And obviously, in this race, I mean, the only real good or decent result they can get is 5th or 6th. But yeah, just what are your overall thoughts at the moment with Mercedes and the progress or lack thereof that they've made so far?
Well, yeah, it just seemed like that they got a better understanding of the circuit than everyone else initially. But then once the other teams figured out what was going on, then that all finished off, as Brundle's desperately trying to get David Beckham as he just walked past Michael Douglas before. I think realistically, I mean, George has done a fantastic job in that car all season to get the absolute best out of it. At best, they can probably get a 4th or a 5th here today, which, I mean, still not the end of the world, still reasonably decent, as Brundle is doing everything he can to get David Beckham, and he's got him. Well done, Brundle. I definitely think that George will move forward in this race, of course, but yeah, I mean, the upgrades have worked a little bit. They're a little bit closer, but not really. The biggest issue at the moment is their straight line speed, of course.
Yeah, it's definitely, I'd say it is the majority of why they're slow. I mean, yeah, the porpoising and the lack of certainly rear end stability we've seen with the Mercedes so far this season, it's definitely an issue, and it's obviously running the car as close to the ground as possible. That's still an issue for them because of the bouncing. They have to run in their car a bit higher than they would like. But yeah, that lack of straight line speed is really hurting them. And even though they've brought lower downforce wings, front and rear wing, they're still in the speed trap about 7 kilometers an hour at best, I think, off the speed of Red Bull. If they're going to really get to race winning ability again this season, that's really what they've got to try and work on. The thing is, though, obviously the engine freeze is coming very soon, and I've even seen reports that it's basically already happened, the engine freeze, and that a lot of the manufacturers have already kind of, committed to it or done it. So we'll have to see what Mercedes can do to combat it, but it's definitely tough times for them, and I think definitely it's going to be, even if they get their car running closer to the ground and get more out of their downforce package, I still don't think they're going to have enough to win races. Maybe they'll win 1 or 2 depending on the track layout, but if they do make those improvements to the floor area during this season, but if even if they do, like I said, they're only going to win around races where they're not losing as much straight line speed as others, or as they would do at other tracks. So it's a massive issue they've got to fix for their, not just their season, but their future. Because like I said, with the engine freeze, if they're that far off with their power unit until 2026, then they're probably not going to compete for a championship until then, unless they make a god of a car sometime between now and then. We'll just quickly as well go on to the rest of the midfield. We've got about 12-13 minutes to go until the start of the formation lap. We'll get into this team. McLaren, Norris 8th, Ricciardo 14th. McLaren also, their straight line speed, if you go look at the data from qualifying, is shockingly bad. Both McLarens pretty much last in the speed traps. I don't know if that's just, I'm going to guess it's them running more downforce because the Aston Martins and the Mercedes and the Williamses definitely not as bad as the McLarens in that aspect. But Norris is in P8. That's a pretty good result considering in the final sector especially. In qualifying yesterday, he had like the 18th best time in Sector 3. So Lando is doing the absolute best he can. And Ricciardo, of course, was unlucky yesterday because he had a gear problem right before his final lap in Q2. Then he was sent out late. Then he had to push harder on his out lap, had to use more of his battery than he wanted to. And then, of course, had less of his battery available for the actual lap itself. And I think he was up on Gasly's time to get out of Q2. But then on that straight down to turn 17, probably didn't have any battery left and lost all the time there. So definitely Ricciardo could have been probably 2-3 at least positions higher on the grid. They should be decent, I think, today, but they will struggle if they've got cars behind them with DRS. AlphaTauri looking pretty strong, 7th and 9th. Valtteri Bottas looking great. I feel very sorry for his teammate, Zhou Guanyu, who was horribly blocked in qualifying. And then it's a shame for Aston Martin. It really is. 10th and 13th on the grid. After what we saw in Melbourne, nobody would have thought that they would have been that strong a month later, because they were a joke at that race, and also the races before. They were so bad. It's a shame that's happened. We'll find out confirmation soon enough of what's caused that to happen for both cars. And then who else? Yeah, you got Alonso in P11 with Alpine. I think he could probably do better. And then obviously it looks as though the 2 slowest teams are Haas and Williams. I'm not sure those 2 teams will really make any dramatic progress in today's Grand Prix. But yeah, with McLaren, Alpine, Alfa Romeo, AlphaTauri, I can't really see Aston Martin anymore because they've dropped back in the on the grid. But those four teams are definitely looking very close to one another. Yeah, Nib, for those midfield teams, I mean, who are you looking out for a good result? I mean, you've probably got to think of, say, Bottas as one of them, obviously being up in P5 on the grid. And also, quick word on Daniel Ricciardo. What do you think he is capable of in this Grand Prix? Obviously, had that those set of unfortunate circumstances yesterday. What could he realistically do in this 58-lap Grand Prix?
All right, so I'll try to go very quickly. Both Aston Martins have an issue with the fuel. The fuel is too cold, and if they started on the grid, their fuel would have been too cold, and they would have got a penalty because their fuel was too cold.
Right.
So that's why that has occurred. And I feel very sad. I still feel quite bad for them because actually I had probably one of their better weekends so far this season, quite comfortably. I mean, Stroll and Vettel looked actually quite good all weekend. Ricciardo, yeah, I mean, just very unlucky. I mean, he would have probably been a little bit behind Lando, but still just terribly unlucky with the issue that he had where he had to go flat out on his out lap to even get a lap in. So quite impressive that he actually finished only a 10th behind 10th in Q2 by Ricciardo. And then, yeah, of course, Bottas, I think, has to be favourite to finish top of the midfield today. I honestly fancy Bottas more than I do the Mercedes to finish at the top of the midfield. The upgrade that they brought at Imola has worked really, really well. I mean, they were probably third fastest team at Imola. Were Alfa Romeo, sorry. So yeah, of course, watch out for Bottas. Then it'll probably be the two Mercs, and probably Lando behind.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Alfa Romeo, they've been, even before that upgrade, they've had a very good season. Bottas could have scored points in all of the races this season. He was heading for like a 7th or an 8th in Saudi, and then had a problem. What was it? 6th in Bahrain, 9th, I think, in Melbourne. It's been a great season. Valtteri has been one of the drivers of the season so far. And yeah, in Imola, maybe with a bit better luck, then he could have finished definitely 4th, maybe even 3rd in that Grand Prix. Because I remember I went back and watched the race, and he was quite a bit behind Russell. He was like 14 seconds behind when they pitted from wet tyres to dry tyres, and then by the end he was right on his back, so he caught that all up in about 25 laps. Very, very impressive from Valtteri Bottas. And yeah, for the midfield, I think it's going to be very competitive. Probably that's going to be where the majority of the fun comes from this particular Grand Prix. I just want to ask as well, Nib, on Daniel Ricciardo, because obviously there's a lot of rumours and talk at the minute about possible moves for next season and beyond. Do you think Ricciardo's had that bad of a season? Because when I look at it, I mean, he hasn't. It still isn't, good enough considering what we've seen from him in the past. But it's not been that bad, has it? Because Bahrain and Saudi, I think in qualifying he was on the pace, if not ahead of Norris. And then I think in the race in Saudi, he then obviously had a retirement, which was unfortunate. And then Melbourne, Norris was quicker, but Ricciardo was on the pace with Norris.
Behind him the whole race.
Yeah, pretty much the whole Grand Prix. And then Imola, kind of the same. Maybe not as much on the pace of Norris, but then obviously punted Sainz off at turn 1. Do you think it's been a better start to the season than, in terms of his own driving, than it was like last season?
Oh, 2,000,000%. I mean, considering he didn't do any of the Bahrain test when he had COVID,
yeah,
his performance level has been actually much better than I expected, to be honest. He's been right on the pace with Lando for the majority of the season, and I think he would have finished right along pretty much with Lando. Probably would have finished 4th or 5th, 6th in that area, still getting good points at Imola. But of course, he punted Sainz at the start of the Grand Prix at Imola, which was a real shame. But yeah, I think the talk of Ricardo's washed, Ricardo should be replaced is so premature, especially for his performance level this season.
Yeah, I mean, McLaren will have to take a look at the situation, obviously, and make a decision probably later this season as to what they want to do in regards to that seat. Because obviously Lando Norris is at the team until, was it 2025, I think his new contract was until.
Yeah,
so
something like that.
With Ricardo, I think you are right. I think it's not been a great start to the season, but I do think in terms of his pace and performance compared to Lando, it is better. It just hasn't gone... It just hasn't been... I think the reason it hasn't been noticed as much is because McLaren haven't started the season as well. I mean, last season, McLaren had the third best car for really the first 3 quarters of the season, except for like 2 or 3 races here or there where Ferrari were very quick. So, if he did this last season, Ricciardo probably would have ended up having some better results. But because the McLaren's been a bit closer towards the rear end of the top 10, we've seen maybe, poorer results for him. But I'd probably give him until the summer break. Obviously, we're going to be going to track soon where he obviously has raced around before. Obviously, Monaco later this month. We'll see what he can do there. The McLaren car, I will say, looks pretty good in the sectors around this track, and it did at Imola where a lot of the corners are. It looks pretty good in terms of grip, so I don't think they're going to do too badly at Monaco or even the next race in Spain. I think they should be pretty good. But yeah, I think if they're going to make a decision in regards to that, they should definitely wait another few races, because I think you could see Ricciardo start to produce some good results. We'll see what he can do against Lando, but Lando has definitely stepped up his performance as a driver a lot from what we saw when he was teammates, of course, with Carlos Sainz in 2019 and 2020, as the F1 intro is now playing. And we've got about 2.5 or 3 minutes to go until the formation lap. Just want to quickly say, if you are watching, guys, don't forget to subscribe if you are new to the channel for more content like this, because, of course, I'll be doing watch-alongs during the season for all the qualifyings and races this season. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there. And as well, smash the like button and share this video to the channel every weekend. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at ChazHD5. And as well, don't forget to come along to my race reaction stream, which will be probably half an hour after the race finishes. So, say 10:30 p.m. UK time, around then probably. That's if we don't get a long safety car. So yeah, like I said,
definitely get.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get at least 1, probably 2. But yeah, about half an hour after the race finishes, I will go live with a race reaction. So don't forget to come along to that after the race finishes. But I'll get rid of some of the graphics and get the running order up. And yep, I've adjusted it with Stroll and Vettel now in 19th and 20th, which is, again, a shame for them. That means that Ricciardo, thankfully for him, now starts 12th instead of 14th. And you got the 2 Haas's up there in 13th and 14th, which definitely makes things look better for them. Let me just get things ready. As well, I'm going to try and do what I did in my last race watch along and display on the far right column. I'm going to try and display what tyres everyone is on if I can. It should be a 58 or 57 lap Grand Prix. And yeah, the grid for the race, I'll quickly read it out. It's a Ferrari front row, Leclerc and Sainz the front row, Verstappen third, Perez fourth, and then Bottas, Hamilton, Gasly, Norris, Tsunoda, Alonso, and then Russell, Ricciardo, Schumacher, Magnussen, Zhou, Albon, Latifi, Ocon, and Stroll and Vettel, and I think Ocon as well. I'm not sure actually about Ocon, but Stroll and Vettel definitely starting from the pit lane. And yeah, I'll update the lap counter obviously during the race.
And for the tyres, just quickly, everyone is on the mediums except for Stroll, Russell, Vettel, Latifi, and Ocon, who are on the hard compound.
Right, so I'll try and just update that. And yeah, the formation lap should be underway momentarily. As there's Lewis Hamilton just getting his racing gloves on for the start. And we'll see how that hard compound does. If the temperature stays hot enough, wouldn't be surprised if that hard compound, comes in good for the drivers on it. Right, just trying to get these tyres updated. I think the highest placed one was Russell, wasn't it, on the hard?
Yeah.
And then Ricardo's on medium, and then who was the next one on hard?
Sorry, just let me go back to the tweet. So on the hard, Stroll, Russell, Vettel, Latifi, and Ocon.
Right. Right, and then I think I'll have it correct now. As the formation lap, by the way, has begun.
Yeah, and Ocon's starting on the grid. I can't remember if you said that he was starting the pit lane or not. He's starting on the grid.
Right, okay. And there you go. So Russell, Latifi, Ocon, Stroll, Vettel on hard is what you said, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've got it all on screen. So those are your starting tyres, and I will try to update it as much as I can during the race. Should be a two-stop Grand Prix. It looks as though the first pit stop's probably going to be around lap 15, maybe lap 20 at the longest, and then probably between lap 30 and 40 for the second pit stop. I'm expecting it to be a medium and hard compound race in terms of the tyres that are used. As by the way, again, confirmation that the formation lap has begun. We might, though, if we get some rain that causes some intermediate tyres, we might see a soft compound tyre if there's not that many laps to go, or if a certain team is struggling to fire up tyres, then obviously going onto the soft can help that, as the front of the field is coming through the turn 14-15 chicane and into turn 16 on this formation lap. And yet Leclerc, Sainz, Verstappen, Perez heading towards this on the straight towards turn 17. As they're just saying that the Miami track is the 11th venue in the US to host a Grand Prix. And it's the first venue in America, other than the Circuit of Americas, to host a Grand Prix since Indianapolis in 2007. And also the first ever Formula One race in Florida, as Leclerc and Sainz now just slowly heading through the final corner, doing their final burnouts. And the rest of the grid should form up soon enough, as they're all coming through those final two corners. And like Nib said earlier, the grip out of turn 17 is not that great, and I don't expect it to be that much better today. So on a safety car restart, I wouldn't be surprised if you see many cars sliding about, struggling for grip, especially on cold tyres. And yet,
also, just quickly, I've seen so many people say this weekend. It's not the first F1 race in Florida. Sebring exists, where there was one Grand Prix in 1959.
Oh, right. For fuck's sake. 1959. Jesus Christ. Anyway.
Oh, Bruce McLaren won that race, mate.
Okay. Anyway, the race is about to begin. All the cars have lined up. And now the green flag waves and the lights are on. It's 3 lights, 4 lights, and 5 in Miami. And lights out and away we go. And Max doesn't look as though he's had that great of a start. Sainz, I think, has kept the position. Or has he? Max Verstappen round the outside. And Verstappen, brilliant move by Max. And he's up to second. And there's an AlphaTauri there. Looks as though he's had a great start. Bottas is fifth. And yet it's Gasly. And Alonso past Hamilton. I think up to P7 there is Fernando. And Hamilton has lost 2 positions at the start, as the clouds pretty dark in the background. And it's actually, let me just update, it's a 57 lap Grand Prix, but it is Leclerc leading from Max. Great move by Max around the outside of turn 1 into turn 2. And Leclerc has a good lead as he leads down to turn 11. I can't see any moves being made into turn 11 as of yet. There is in the background. Got a Haas there, and they've cut away. It's the exact wrong time. There's a McLaren in there as well of Ricciardo. And two cars there side by side. That we've just missed, I think, an absolutely amazing move there. I think between
the two Haases.
Yeah, the two Haases. And Alonso up to P7. So let me update some of the order. So Verstappen up to second. Sainz in third. As Verstappen is trying to get in that slipstream of Charles Leclerc. And then you got Alonso is sixth. Gasly is sixth. And then Alonso 7th. Hamilton 8th. Norris 9th. Tsunoda 10th. Let me just update. It is now lap 2 out of 57. And Hamilton already all over the back of Alonso, as Ricciardo there defending from Mick Schumacher. And there is Ocon, I think, passing a Williams into turn 1 as the field start to settle down. Look at that. Alonso, 4 positions game. We've seen this so many times in his career, gaining positions at the start, and he's done it yet again. Russell, 4 positions lost. And I think we can pretty much guarantee that that's down to him starting on the hard compound tyre. So Ricciardo up to 11th, Schumacher 12th, Magnussen 13th, and then Zhou 14th, Russell 15th, then Albon, Ocon, Latifi, and then Stroll and Vettel. Let me just update the compounds as well. But Nib, what a start for Fernando. We've seen it so many times, but it's brilliant to see it yet again.
Yeah, I mean, how many times has it said the dude's probably the best starter in the history of the sport? I mean, we'll see in a couple of laps' time when they actually show the replays of what occurred. But what a start! He certainly made up for getting impeded by Sainz in quali yesterday. Obviously, not the greatest start for George Russell, but as you said, on the hard compounded tyres, you expect him to probably start moving up past Zhou Guanyu relatively shortly. Also, actually, good start for Daniel Ricciardo for once, but it looks like Lando is Daniel was certainly getting put under pressure by Mick, and of course he's been overtaken by Mick somewhere on this lap. Now he's being put under pressure a little bit by K-Mag.
And we're just seeing there, and annoyingly they're not going to show it, or the end of it, but Albon all over the back of Russell for 15th place. I think Russell has just about kept position. Russell still struggling on that hard compound tyre to get it fired up. We saw this with Carlos Sainz in Melbourne, who lost about 5, I think even more than that, he lost about 6 or 7 positions, and of course spun after 3 laps. Hopefully Russell doesn't suffer the same
Albon
fate.
Just went off.
Who did?
Albon just made a little bit of a mistake through the S section, I believe.
As here comes Lewis Hamilton, about to pass Fernando Alonso, and Hamilton up to P7 ahead of Fernando. The Mercedes is, I think, quicker than the Alpine, so that's not really the biggest surprise in the world, as DRS is now enabled. And Leclerc leading by 1.2 seconds. He's vitally got ahead. He's broken that DRS window just about. And Carlos Sainz is in third, but Max will now gain lots of time down the straight. About 0.2 of a second even before they hit the brakes for turn 12. Not turn 12, turn 17. As Perez is only 1.2 behind Sainz, so pretty close up front, as there is Ricciardo's lost 2 positions to the Haases, and Nib, I'll let you take us through this.
Yeah, and here we go. I'm just about like 5 seconds, I think, maybe behind you, but yeah, actually not the greatest launch for Max. I mean, Carlos is ahead of him there, but he just lets Max go right around the outside of him. Yeah, a little bit mugged off there. As we saw a little bit further back in the background, Alonso and Hamilton nearly making contact. As I don't know why we're continuing to watch the same thing for no reason. Yeah, and it was a pretty even start for all of the front 3, but Max just laid on the brakes around the outside, not getting affected by what there is. As that American fan is quite pumped. as they were on board with Lewis, and yeah, Lewis actually got a pretty good start as well, pretty side by side with Bottas, and he got very close to hitting Perez there, and then all of a sudden here comes Gasly, and there was contact between them, Alonso. I think I mentioned before, but here we go now on board as Vettel is apparently losing power. I've just got a tweet notification. Alonso just right around the outside. He's just going to throw it up the inside of Hamilton, and well, they got away with that, and it looks like both of them have no damage because it was just wheel-to-wheel contact.
Yeah, he's very lucky, because if it was, if Alonso hit him at a different angle, Hamilton could have flown off into the barriers there, caused quite a big accident. So yeah, lucky it was wheel-to-wheel, as it's now lap 5 out of 57. Max is only 1 second. Now 1.2 seconds as they enter the first sector, or they complete the first sector rather. And Max hanging on pretty close to Leclerc, but Leclerc doing just about enough to keep ahead. Carlos Sainz, though, is really starting to drop off now, and Perez is tantalizingly close to having DRS. He's literally just outside of it. So Perez, I think, is more likely to get a move done out the Red Bulls. Bottas starting to pull clear of Gasly, as Hamilton now all over the back of him. And yeah, I was about to say before that replay of the start, Ricciardo, for some reason, has lost 2 positions to the 2 Haas's. So Ricciardo is 13th, and then, yeah, Zhou 14th. Hamilton locks up for that chicane, but he just does a bit of cadence braking, and he definitely is way quicker than Gasly, and he will be past him very, very soon. And yes, Sebastian Vettel at the back is 1.5 seconds behind Stroll. And, well, no retirement or anything like that as of yet. But the order remains the same, as we're now on lap 6 out of 57. And Hamilton now through the 2 final corners. And surely he'll get a move done here. Gasly will defend his position, but Hamilton easily gets that one done. So Hamilton is up to 6th. And now he's only about 1.5 seconds behind his old teammate, Valtteri Bottas. As Max is continuing to drop off compared to Leclerc. Maybe that tyre wear we were talking about is starting to have an effect. As surprisingly, no first lap safety car. Which I don't think people expected, as Kevin Magnussen and Mick Schumacher have now passed Tsunoda. The 2 Haas's are flying through the field. They were 13th and 14th on the grid. Now they're just coming through the field. And the next up the road is Norris, but Norris is then again 2.5 seconds up the road. As Ricciardo, unfortunately, loses another position now to Zhou. Then again, the Alfa Romeo is quicker, so that's not necessarily a surprise. And here's, Mick Schumacher following Tsunoda through the final corner. And then making... Oh, no, Tsunoda, the usual. Late on the brakes and contact slightly. That's a great move by Mick. Round the outside. As Gasly is all over the back of Hamilton now. And, Hamilton starting to struggle. And Alonso all over the back of Pierre as they begin lap 7. And Leclerc's gap to Max has come down a bit. Nice to see in it, Nib. Mick having a good race. He's had a pretty poor season, but looks as though he's having a very good afternoon.
Yeah, this is certainly by far his best weekend of the entire season. That was a great move on Yuki Tsunoda, of course, who had some great battles in F2, but it seems as if at the moment Leclerc has the advantage on Verstappen in the first sector, but on the previous lap, Verstappen was able to pull the gap back a little bit through the final 2 sectors, and Verstappen's losing at least 1/10 or 2/10 in the first sector, but then it seems as if clawing it back as apparently have Guan Yu Zhou in the pits.
Yeah, I think he's out of the race because he just dropped to the back of the grid, back of the field, and then he's come into the pits. He just lost a load of positions, so I don't know if he had it. Yeah, he's out of the race. Oh, that's a shame. blocked in qualifying from probably a good result and then a retirement. Don't know what that's about. That is a shame because he's looked pretty good this weekend. Just trying to update the tyres. I'll quickly update that Guan Yu Zhou is sadly out of this race. He's been pretty unlucky, I think, Zhou, this season. As we're now looking at, Gasly, who's still following Hamilton. And I think a big reason he's still following Hamilton is because the AlphaTauri, of course, has the Red Bull powertrain. As
Max is within a second here.
He is, and he just said on the radio can start to see some damage to Leclerc's front right tyre. So it looks as though Leclerc might have pushed a bit too hard, kind of reminiscent of the sprint race where Leclerc tried to sprint off into the distance, but Max ended up getting him back. And last 2 laps, he's been quarter of a second quicker. He doesn't have DRS Max, but he will be within a second, surely, into the next DRS zone, or he'll be close to it at least. Yeah, that Red Bull definitely looks better right now. And Perez has dropped off the back of Sainz, which is surprising. I would have thought Perez would have continued to be right on the back of him. And Max all over the back here of Leclerc. 8 tenths behind now as they enter the DRS zone down to turn 17. And we'll now see, similar to Saudi Arabia, that Red Bull fly up to the back of the Ferrari. And look at that speed difference. And if he was 2 or 3 tenths closer, it wouldn't have been a competition. And it's not going to be a competition down into turn 1. Because Verstappen all over the back of Leclerc, desperate to get past him, almost pushing him along. And Verstappen down the inside leads in Miami, goes slightly wide. Leclerc might get him back, but I don't think he will with those tyre problems. And Max Verstappen leads in Miami. Makes it look so easy and is into the lead. We thought it would be Red Bull maybe suffering a bit more with tyre woes, but no, it's Leclerc. Are you surprised he's already, got to the lead that quick, Nib? I'm pretty surprised he's already leading after 9 laps.
Yeah, I am, to be honest, Chaz. And you saw out of 17, Leclerc had no traction. Absolutely no traction at all. He was pushing him through that part of the circuit, as you called beautifully. And it seems as if they have the tyre advantage here. As Perez did lose just a little, he lost about 6 tenths as all. Leclerc is starting to come back at Verstappen here, of course, with the use of DRS. Verstappen does go a little bit deep. And now Charles will certainly be back in contention to get back past here as they get out of the chicane. Yeah,
he has lost a bit of time, obviously, that you're going to in that very slow sequence of corners, but he's pretty much the same gap behind Max that Max was a lap ago down to turn 17, but Leclerc does not have the straight line speed that the Red Bull has. We'll see after turn 17 whether Leclerc can get a good release, and no, not quite, but he is right on the back of him, and this is great to see them fighting for the lead already. But Leclerc out of that final corner, like I said, Max was pretty much pushing him through the final 2 corners, as just trying to see if there's any changes to the order, and no, pretty much F1 has settled into a pace. The only fights going on is Gasly versus Alonso for 7th and 8th, obviously this one for the lead. Ricciardo's right behind Tsunoda. Stroll has lost a position to Vettel. Now Stroll's got back ahead, so Sebastian's problem must have solved itself. And Ricciardo, I was about to say, is right behind Tsunoda. He's now past him. So Ricciardo up to 12th. And then, Russell stuck in 14th. And Hamilton, like you kind of said, Nib, before the race, is not really that much quicker than Bottas. He's 3.8 behind and not really closing the gap. So looks as though he won't be able to go any further, as Leclerc is not as close this time out of turn 16. Next to the lake. And Leclerc, I think he has DRS, but he won't be able to really close in enough to overtake. And no, doesn't have DRS actually, which is vital for Max to pull away. As Perez looks as though he's just gently closing in on Carlos Sainz for third place. So the Ferraris definitely looking kind of in a bit of trouble. Here's a replay of Daniel Ricciardo. This will be a good move. Did Tsunoda let him through? That was unusual. Yeah. Did he let him through, Nib, or was he surprised that Tsunoda braked so early? That was a weird overtake.
I'm not too sure, but whatever. It was a good move by Daniel. But yeah, Max really took advantage of the clear air he had in the first sector once he overtook Leclerc. It was nearly half a second quicker in the first sector when he was able to overtake Leclerc, and now Leclerc is the slowest out of the top 4 drivers. So we might start to see Sainz and Perez come up to the back of Leclerc here.
As they're just saying to Sainz that we're extending the stint as much as they can. Yeah, Max is now he's broken the DRS window, so he's now 1.2 clear. And yeah, Perez looks as though he's possibly shaping up soon for a move on Carlos Sainz. And the pit window, according to AWS, or according to Pirelli, is about to open for the people on the mediums, as Magnussen has just overtaken Mick Schumacher for 10th place. So there's a bit of a train behind Ricciardo. I don't think that's necessarily because of Ricciardo. I think it was probably because of Tsunoda, but you got Ricciardo, Tsunoda, Russell, Albon, Ocon, all in a pack towards the back. Russell having a very difficult time, and now he's going to know what it's like to be Lewis Hamilton from 2 weeks ago, because I don't think he's going to go anywhere in that DRS train. And yet Mick Schumacher is right behind Kevin Magnussen, and now we're looking at Ricciardo. We're now looking at that train of cars: Ricciardo, Tsunoda, and Russell. Russell definitely should be quicker than all of these. And as Tsunoda comes in to the pit, so straight as the pit window opens, Tsunoda is in, and we'll see what compound he goes on to. So I'll just quickly update, and he should go down to the back in 19th place. And I didn't see what tyre he went on to, but yeah, he'll be back out.
Think the hard.
Right.
Think the hard.
Let me just update quickly the tyres. And yeah, Russell up to 13th. He's on the hard. And then you've got Albon in 14th on the medium. And then also Ocon on the hard. We're probably going to see everybody, if there's no safety car, I think we're going to see everybody, to be honest, go on to that hard compound tyre. As more and more people start to go on to it, as we now begin lap 13, and look at the gap that Max has pulled out over Leclerc. And this is maybe why Leclerc locking his outside front, running very wide, and then having zero grip out of turn 17. He's now 2.5 seconds behind Max Verstappen, who is showing exactly why he is the world champion with this performance so far, as Mick Schumacher has re-overtaken Magnussen, and that's because Magnussen has pitted for Haas. So Mick up to 10th. That pushes some other drivers up, and Magnussen goes on to also a hard compound tyre. We'll see where he comes out in comparison to Tsunoda. And Magnussen should come out a few seconds ahead, I'd imagine, as here we're looking at Fernando Alonso on the back of Pierre Gasly. And yeah, let me just update the tyres once again. And yeah, Nib, for Red Bull, this couldn't have gone any better. And how can Ferrari respond? I'm not sure they can at the moment. They just don't have the pace.
Yeah, certainly with that lockup by Leclerc, they're certainly a little bit limited in the options of which they have available to them, because of course they could have gone for the undercut, and certainly would have been in the undercut window with the gap that they did have to Max. But after that mistake, he's obviously now nearly 3 seconds behind. Still possible, but it isn't last year's tyres. Of course, you can't warm them up as well as last year's tyres, so much harder to perform that sort of level of an undercut this year. But Charles was only a tenth slower than Max on that previous lap, so the tyres still aren't in the worst shape as Perez lost about 4/10 on that lap. Once again, he had a little bit of a weird first sector compared to the rest, and that's where he seems to just be making a few little mistakes when he gets a little bit closer to Sainz. So I think that's just affecting Sergio at the moment.
As well, quick apologies that I didn't have Verstappen on my order in the lead. Just quickly forgot to do that, but I have done it now. And there's a replay of Russell passing Ricciardo, and that inside line has way more grip than on the exit turn 17 than the outside. It reminds me of Turkey, that corner. There's no grip at all. And Russell...
Daniel, are you okay?
And yeah, Russell is now up to 11th. Let me just update that. Well, I've updated the position. Let me just do the tyres. So Russell on the hard compound tyre is now in 11th place, and he's not too far behind Mick Schumacher in the Haas, as we're on lap 15 out of 57. And we're looking at Alonso and Gasly. Alonso following Pierre through the final two corners and still right behind him. Looks as though this might be a race-long battle. I think because there's not been a safety car, I think the front four teams, as Mick Schumacher pits, I think the front four teams, the front four cars are just trying to extend the stint as long as they can get away with to try and do a one-stop race here if they can. Because, of course, a one-stopper is most preferable if they can get away with it. As, Mick has pitted, and Mick, we'll see where he comes out. Mick has come out in between his teammate Magnussen and Yuki Tsunoda. So I'll just quickly update that and update the tyres as well. Yeah, Verstappen leading by 3.1 seconds at the moment.
He just gained 4/10 on Charles in that middle sector as well. He just went purple.
Yeah, he's very, very quick at the moment. And really, if Ferrari, as Verstappen does the fastest lap, as Lance Stroll, I think, just passed Nicholas Latifi for 14th place. Max really pulling away now by quite a bit. He's now 3.6 seconds clear of Leclerc. And if Ferrari want to get back at Max, then I think the only option is to try something different on strategy, because they're not really in a position right now to do an undercut because they're not going to get close enough, I don't think. As Alonso, really slow pit stop. When will this man have some luck in his life? Fernando, 5.7 second stop. Hard compound tyres, that's such a shame. I don't think he will lose a position, but he'll be miles away now from Gasly, who is right behind. And Alonso has come out in 13th, which is actually quite high. A lot higher than I expected. He's trying, though, to stay ahead of Stroll, and he should. Just about. The Aston Martins are doing not too bad on pace. As actually, hold on, got the order incorrect.
Max has just gone purple in the middle sector again. They're really stretching their legs now. Red Bull are.
Yeah, as Stroll. Is this Stroll? No, this is Sebastian Vettel trying to pass Latifi. They've both got DRS, and Vettel, will he go around the outside? He's going to try to turn 11, but it's not going to work. If he keeps going, then he's going to make contact. No, he doesn't. Brilliant from Vettel. And now Latifi has now has Magnussen all over the back of him. Brilliant move there by Seb. And yeah, Magnussen is about to overtake as, let me just update the lap number we're on. Lap 17 out of 57. And Pierre Gasly and Alex Albon have come into the pits.
Now we have a fastest first sector by Charles on this lap.
Yep, very quick. He's cut it down to 3.2 as Albon will drop back. Gasly has come out comfortably in 11th place. And there's the replay of what happened to Alonso. With the tyres and all the tyres they're respectively on, I will update that in due course. And yeah, you got Magnussen up in 15th and Latifi 16th. Schumacher is up to 17th. Albon has now dropped to the back because Albon has pitted, yes. As Max Verstappen now begins lap 18 out of 57. And Verstappen still 3.5 seconds clear. And Perez now within a second almost of Carlos Sainz. So Ferrari getting slower and their day getting worse, unfortunately. But let me just update the tyres for you. So Russell obviously on the hard. And then everybody is moving to the hard compound tyre now. That should make things easier for me. And yeah, pretty much everyone on the hard, I think, for the rest of the order. So there you go. And yeah, it is Max on lap 18, 3.5 seconds clear of Leclerc. Carlos Sainz third, Sergio Perez is fourth, and Perez about a second or just under a second behind Carlos Sainz as Ferrari continue to struggle on their tyres. And Perez, he's lost a bit of time in those slow corners, so he won't have DRS into turn 17. But he will continue to close the gap, and he might get DRS down the pit straight if he continues closing in down this straight, as Leclerc is not actually that far up the road from Carlos Sainz. And yeah, the Ferraris and the Red Bulls continue on not pitting as of yet in this Grand Prix. We move on to lap 19, and Perez just needs to try and have a good first sector, I think, really, to keep with Sainz, but it is pretty difficult to hang on to the car ahead with the dirty head that the cars, they still have. As, what do you call it? Is this Lando Norris into the pits? It is. So Norris pits for McLaren. We'll see where he comes out. He should come out in, I think, 10th place. Norris, not the greatest pit stop, but it's only a second slower. And no, he's lost. Oh, no, he was behind Gasly and Alonso. Oh, that's a really difficult place for him to come out. Can he get ahead of the two Aston Martins? No, he can't. Can't get ahead of that Aston Martin. And he might struggle now to keep ahead of Vettel. And there's a Haas there trying to go 3 wide. Thankfully, they've got through. And Norris loses position then to the two Aston Martins.
I'd say there's certainly no issue with the tyre life at the moment for Leclerc. He's probably about to do the fastest lap of the Grand Prix if he can do a good final sector.
Yeah, it seems as though it's maybe it's just gone through some sort of graining phase for him. As here's the Haas of Magnussen, who's now past Norris. I'll update that on the order in just a moment, and I'll just quickly flick the lap counter over to lap 20.
Perez is coming into the pits.
Right, so Perez coming in. He should come out in probably 6th
Oh, he's
place.
losing power. He's losing power, apparently.
Oh, no.
Sorry, he had a terrible last sector. I just assumed he was coming into the pits, but no. I got immediate tweet notifications that he's losing power.
Oh no, that's terrible for Red Bull. As yellow flag in sector 3. Was that for who was that? McLaren? That was Norris.
That's Norris.
Has he got a problem? Or did he just go wide?
Not too sure.
I don't know why they
To be
put a
honest
yellow
with you.
flag out for that. But Norris is now down to P16. But yeah, I'll try and update the tyres, you guys. And here's a replay. And Norris, I think it was the same thing. How weird. Like, it is literally like Turkey. They've got no grip. It is literally like driving on ice. That is incredible. I've never seen that before. Just one corner where you just has no drive.
Yeah, Max just put in a stonking lap. He's 3/10 faster than Leclerc. Perez did lose about 4 seconds, but now his sector times are back on with Sainz. So just a a little loss of power for Perez, but now he's back again.
Right, hopefully he can stay in the race because at least he can, try and get 4th place. But he is still losing time to Sainz. Not a dramatic amount, but he's definitely lapping a lot slower. And I think I've got all the tyres on the left-hand side. I think I've got them all correct now. The only people on mediums are the ones who have stayed, that haven't pitted yet. The top 6, Verstappen, Leclerc, Sainz, Perez, Bottas, Hamilton. Ricciardo, also on mediums, hasn't pitted yet. Is a replay. Magnussen, I don't think he was forced out there. I think he just drove off the track at exit of turn 11. Yeah, he just drove off the track trying to get ahead, really. But good scraps from the Aston Martins. The Aston Martins are looking pretty quick. They haven't pitted yet, but they're not really losing positions or time, or that much time. So, shows you what could have been for Aston Martin. And the 2 drivers are doing really well as we're on lap 22 out of 57. And nearly halfway through this Grand Prix. And yeah, on the TV broadcast, we're just looking at Kevin Magnussen, who's all over the back of the 4 times world champion, who is driving pretty well, considering his machinery. And yeah, Perez is now 7.8, almost 8 seconds behind Carlos Sainz. Verstappen is leading by 4.2 seconds. Verstappen really is in a comfortable position right now. Sainz is 4 seconds off Leclerc, as Magnussen, big correction through turn 17, but holds on to it. Norris, I have to say, has not really recovered from that moment he had, because he's now 2.4 seconds off the 2 Haas's, and not really on the back of this scrap. And Stroll was actually under a second behind Alonso, despite Alonso having pitted. There is something we've seen this season there, but we saw it in Melbourne, obviously, with Albon doing that very long stint. That the longer you stay out on tyres actually benefits you more than pitting, because, like you said, it's more more difficult to warm up tyres, obviously, after you've pitted. It's Verstappen does a new fastest lap. So it seems that it's more beneficiary to actually just stay out there and do the times.
And I also think that a part of that was that the medium tyre in Melbourne just died so quickly. I mean, we saw with Alonso, once he pitted, he just wasn't able to overtake anyone. Verstappen went nearly 5/10 of a second quicker than Leclerc on that previous lap.
And Lewis Hamilton coming into the pits from 6th place. His teammate is the next man down the road. Hamilton will probably come out in 9th if this is a good pit stop, or maybe 10th at worst. And yeah, good pit stop for Lewis. And we'll see where he comes out. And yeah, Russell has gone past. That's Ricciardo. Can Hamilton get out ahead of him? Yes, he can. If he fires his tyres up, and he can. Lewis Hamilton up to, or down a place, but he's still in a good position. And Mercedes having a good race considering where their car's at, but obviously not as good as they would have hoped. But at least Lewis is having a decent afternoon. But he can't get anywhere near his ex-teammate Valtteri Bottas, who is 5th and lapping not too much slower than Perez, or at least he wasn't a minute ago. And now I think he's starting to drop off again. But Bottas is doing a fantastic job in the Alfa Romeo as we're on lap 24. Now Charles Leclerc does the fastest lap of the race. And here is a replay of Max Verstappen. And his tyres look fine, to be honest.
We have a Leclerc fastest lap this time. He was about a tenth and a bit quicker than Max on that previous lap. So, I mean, these two are in a league of their own. I mean, they were like 7 tenths faster than Sainz on that last lap.
Yeah, Carlos, I think we've seen this before in the season. Carlos not really able to live with the pace of Max and Charles. And I'm sure Max will be pushing for another fastest lap. As, yeah, the only ones left on mediums now are the top 5 and Daniel Ricciardo. And given, like I said, given that the, staying out looks to be, and, doing a longer stint, firstly, seems to be beneficiary. I don't think Ricciardo necessarily has to pit just yet. As Leclerc saying the car is so difficult to drive, and that's probably what caused him to be overtaken by Max and fall almost 5 seconds behind. As we're now cut back to this battle as Charles Leclerc, is it, coming into the pits? Yes, it is. The Leclerc into the pits for Ferrari to come onto the hard compound tyre. Let's see how this pit stop goes. And it's not great. It's, it's not bad, but probably a second off what they would have hoped for. And Leclerc will come out in 4th place, just ahead of Valtteri Bottas. So at least not Mercedes, as long as at least Red Bull know that they've got a pit stops gap to Bottas at least. So Leclerc continues on. And yeah, Max will probably pit at the end of this lap to cover off what Leclerc did with the pit stop. As now we're looking at a Williams of Nicholas Latifi, who I actually haven't updated that part of the order, but I don't understand why Tsunoda is under pressure from Latifi, but he is. Maybe he's just overtaken him, I'm not sure. Tsunoda, I think, must have made a mistake or something, because he shouldn't be that far behind. He's about 8 seconds behind Albon, and then he's just ahead of Latifi. So yeah, I think he must have some sort of problem or made a mistake. Or something.
I'm not sure.
But we're now on to lap 26, and Max Verstappen has not pitted, but is still going pretty quickly. He's 10.5 seconds almost. And look at that, he's now increased it to 11 seconds over Carlos Sainz. Sainz must have made a mistake or something.
No, that's just how they did the exact same lap times as the last couple laps. He's just that much quicker than Sainz.
Wow, that is incredible. He's close to being a pit stop ahead of him, which is quite impressive considering how quick Carlos was in qualifying. And here we cut back to a battle between Alonso, Stroll, Vettel, Magnussen, Schumacher, Norris. Again, Norris has not picked up his pace. He's still 2.5 seconds behind. I think Norris might have an issue in that car because he just hasn't recovered his pace. He should be on the back of this pack. Go on.
I must say, so Sainz did make a mistake in the first sector. He lost 1.5 seconds
Yeah.
To Max. My live timing is like about 15 to 20 seconds behind my actual screen.
Yeah.
As now Verstappen is being told to pit.
Yep, he comes in now as we're on lap 27, about halfway through this Grand Prix, and about 30 laps to go. And Max it should come out in second place if Sainz doesn't pit. And yep, Sainz has gone through. So Carlos Sainz is into the lead. And Max Verstappen continues on and gets out ahead of his teammate, Sergio Perez, who is struggling after whatever issue he had. And now Valtteri Bottas pits in the Alfa Romeo. Bottas should come out in 5th, where he actually is. I'll get ready in case he doesn't come out in 5th, but he should come out ahead of Russell, who he was 18.5 seconds clear of. It does seem as though the pit lane is pretty quick here. You don't lose that much time pitting. Well, he does fall behind Russell, but only just. But you only lose, well, the looks of it, 18, 19 seconds, which is pretty quick. So Russell is up to 5th. And Bottas, of course, is on the hard compound tyre. And so is Russell. As here is Carlos Sainz hobbsing down the straight, and he'll probably pit, I'd imagine, at the end of his lap, and yet looks as though he is. And Carlos, you have to say his pace has been quite poor in this Grand Prix, but if he can still get a podium, then at least that's something rather than nothing, which is what he took out of the last 2 races. The Ferrari team, as he only was actually just ahead of Verstappen when he pitted. And Perez is in as well, and slow pit stop there for Sainz. I don't know what happened. 5.4 seconds Perez, about 2.5 seconds quicker. Perez doesn't look to be as far behind Sainz as maybe I expected, but obviously Sainz now gets released. But yeah, you now have got Leclerc back into 2nd. And then it's Sainz 3rd, Perez 4th. Here's a replay. And yeah, front right tyre wouldn't go on. And then eventually it did. Carlos now continues. And now everybody is on the hard compound tyre, except for Daniel Ricciardo, who is the last man, not the last man not to pit, but he's one of. And he's definitely the last one not to pit on that compound. As just seen, actually, Kevin Magnussen has made an overtake. He's up to 13th place as Verstappen actually gained a lot of time through that pit stop phase. What was it, 4.5 seconds, I think, when he pitted, or when Leclerc pitted? Now it's 7.5 seconds. So
yeah, the overcut was very, very powerful because Max was able to do that. Max was just a little bit quicker. I don't actually, from the lap times here, it doesn't actually look like he lost it on track. So I don't know. I wonder where he's lost that time, Leclerc.
Yeah, just quite incredible. But quite incredible that Max has gained that much time. He is pretty much in a league of his own, just dominating this Grand Prix, as we are pretty much now halfway through the Grand Prix. Just want to quickly, as we have a lull in the action, just want to quickly say, if you are watching, don't forget to come along to my race reaction stream later. My race reaction stream will be as soon as possible after the race finishes. So about half an hour after the race finishes. So you're looking around 10:30 probably PM UK time. Make sure to come along to that to react with me to the events of this Grand Prix. As Hamilton's saying, the tyres are already overheating. So yeah, make sure to come along to that stream later. And if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there. And as well, to help the channel grow, don't forget to smash the like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at ChazHD5 for more updates. about streams and videos. As Verstappen is about to complete lap 29 and begin lap 30 out of 57. And yeah, Verstappen, new fastest lap, 132.7. And he's, like I said, in a league of his own. And Russell, Ricciardo, Ocon, Stroll, and Vettel, and Latifi are the only ones not to pit. Latifi may as well pit. He's at the back, so I don't know why he hasn't pitted yet. Yeah, those are the ones to look out for in regards to later in the race. Here's a replay of Lewis Hamilton locking the inside front and going deep at turn 11. That would have cost him probably a second. And he's already lost quite a bit of time to Bottas as Hamilton through the pit stop phase, and he's going to lose even more with that mistake. As Stroll, go on.
It actually gained quite a bit of time on Bottas because the gap was like 7-8 seconds to Bottas before he pitted. If I was seeing correctly, so he's actually gained quite a bit of time, but that lockup certainly won't help.
No, and Bottas is actually starting to looks as though he's starting to slowly catch Russell ahead. Doesn't need to take too much out of his tyres because, of course, Russell has to pit. And Russell will still face quite a job to, catch his way back up to where he is now. Because when he pits Russell, he will come out in... Well, probably if these lot that we're watching now, Stroll, Magnussen and all, Magnussen... Is he going to overtake Stroll round the outside of turn 11? No, not quite. Might try a switchback, but if these lot don't pit when he pits, he'll come out basically right in the middle of this fight. So I think he's hoping these lots that are fighting, they'll maybe, space out a bit, or at least the two Aston Martins will come into the pits, because it would probably destroy his race if he was to pit now, as Bottas continues to close the gap. Russell, as Stroll, Magnussen, Vettel continuing, and Vettel down the inside at turn 17 and gets the move done. And the other half of Mick Schumacher now all over the back of K-Mag, but he's not going to get moved done. And Daniel Ricciardo finally pits. We'll see where Ricciardo comes out. He'll come out behind Lando Norris, who's lost a lot of time, but he is on fresher, hard compound tyres. That's Alex Albon, who will come out just ahead of him. So Ricciardo is down to 17th position now on the hard compound tyre. And that means that everyone at the moment is on the hard compound tyre. We will, though, see, I think, the medium come out soon.
You know what we need, Chaz?
What?
We need some bloody rain.
We do. Or a safety car.
Yes, please. Something.
Because, yeah, I was actually going to bring that up at some point. This has not been that good of a race. I mean, the first 10-15 laps are pretty good, and we're getting some decent close battling here between the Haas's and the Aston Martins and now Norris. But I mean, this is what I expected to happen, really. Just a kind of a 5 out of 10. Just it's an okay race, nothing special. But
yeah, well, it's what the drivers also expected, really. But I've just tweeted out during this race that I'm not going to judge this race as the Haas cars are battling quite hard here. So we've got quite a car park behind Kevin Magnussen. Lando Norris, I thought, was going to hit Vettel for a moment there. Into turn one. Can Schumacher get past? No. I did what the Aussies did at that press conference with Juan Pablo Montoya all those years ago just then. But yeah, at least this is what happened in Australia as well, is that midfield was the cause of all of the action, which you just didn't see on TV, which I all saw down at turn 11. But it's great to see these lot following up also closely. But yeah, they've got to fix the track surface. That's the main thing. once they fix the track surface and upgrade it even more, because, well, I mean, they upgraded it from a car park to a bad asphalt, basically. They just need to fix that track surface, but it's hard because of the conditions that you have here in Florida.
Yeah, we'll see next year what happens, whether that track surface can be improved, and then we'll see, of course, what happens next year at this Grand Prix. But yeah, this surface definitely not lending towards a good Grand Prix. I mean, it's offering up some excitement because and for the drivers, because it's not just an easy lap, and obviously out of this turn 17, it's causing some interest, but it is a pretty hard track in terms of it's not the corners, it's like we were saying, it's the grip of the track. It's pretty hard to drive even online and offline. Well, pretty terrible. As Verstappen is leading by still 7.5 seconds. Carlos Sainz is 12 seconds behind Charles Leclerc. So Sainz is about a pit stop behind Max. And then Perez is starting now. Whatever issue he's had is gone. He's now starting slowly but surely, I think. Close the gap, because it was, I think before the pit stop, it was like 8 seconds or something between Sainz and Perez, and now it's now 6 seconds.
But the pit stop mistake.
Yeah, true. Yeah. That is true. But at least he's on the pace of Sainz. He was falling back towards Bottas.
That Leclerc fastest lap, he was half a second quicker than Verstappen, and mainly is coming in the first sector, which is a pattern that we've seen all Grand Prix long.
Yeah, and we saw also in qualifying the Ferraris really quick in Sector 1. Sainz in qualifying was even 2 tenths quicker than his own teammate in Sector 1 in qualifying. So the Ferrari really good in there in that sector, but towards the end of the lap, these straights are just not quite showing that similar speed, as Haas have had a pretty eventful race, I have to say. They've looked pretty quick, but I'm not sure if they'll get the reward in the end. I mean, Russell and Ocon still have to pit, but I'm not sure whether these Haas's are actually going to end up getting a good result in the end. We'll have to see what happens, as Max Verstappen is currently heading down to turn 17 and still lapping pretty quickly as we continue to watch this fight. And honestly, it looks like McLaren are heading for a very poor race, because Lando Norris, since he came out of the pits, came out behind this pack of cars, then made that mistake, and once Russell and Ocon pit, I mean, they'll come out behind Norris. Well, Ocon will come out behind Norris, but Ocon will be on much better tyres. And Russell should also jump Lando in the pit stop phase. So McLaren, not sure they're going to get a point out of this. And it's been a pretty poor Grand Prix for them, as he is giving it his all still, right behind Sebastian Vettel. But like I said in my race preview earlier, the McLaren's bottom of the speed traps, no speed at all, so they're not going to be able to do any overtaking. And you can see that watching this battle, even the Aston Martin pulling away. Oh, the Haas there going very wide of Kevin Magnussen, and that lets Mick Schumacher through up to 12th. And here is Magnussen going to go for it again? No, he is not. And Vettel now right behind the two Haases. Great scrap these guys are having. And like you said, Nib, in Melbourne, there was a great midfield scrap, but just wasn't shown as much as probably it should have been.
Mate, it was about 6 or 7 cars within about 4 to 5 seconds, basically the whole entire race.
As Vettel there, locking his inside front, sorry to cut you off, locking his inside front and losing position to Norris. That's such a shame because he was looking good there. But yeah, in Melbourne it was what? It was Stroll, Gasly, Bottas, the Haases, Zhou. It was
Alonso in the end.
Alonso, yeah, it was a great... They did show a bit of it, but just not as much as probably they should have. As yet, Vettel loses that position. And
as Leclerc and Verstappen are about a second quicker than their teammates at the moment.
yeah, it's just in a completely different league, which they have been all season long, except here and there for Sergio Perez. And look at that. That is rain in the distance. A big wall of it, by the look of it. Will it come in time? Probably not. What are we looking at now? So Russell is 5th on the hard compound tyre. Hasn't pitted yet, doing a great stint. I think what these guys who haven't pitted yet, who are on the hard compound tyres, I think what they're doing is they're going to try and do what Albon did in Melbourne. They're going to just stay out, put in the laps, and then pit at the very end or for a safety car, and then hope that their whatever position they come out in is obviously good enough for a point. If Russell pitted now, Russell would probably come out in 7th place or 8th place. So Russell's heading for a points finish. Ocon, he's heading for, 15th or 16th. So Ocon has work to do if he's going to build enough of a gap, as we have now 20 laps to go. Lap 37 out of 57 here in Miami. Yeah, just watching Russell pound round. But yeah, Sainz is now 15 seconds behind Leclerc after 37 laps. That is pretty embarrassing for Sainz, considering what we saw last year. Russell saying, why don't we just keep going or see if there's a VSC or safety car? Like I said, I think that's what they're trying to do. Either wait for that or just pit on the final lap. And yeah, well, if he was to stay out until the final lap, if there's not a safety car, he will probably finish in 7th place, which is a good return considering his qualifying.
Vettel is told that there's going to be some rain in about 10 minutes' time.
Right, well, that should be lap 45 at the earliest, I'd imagine.
But then I also have Jono saying that there's going to be no rain. So who knows?
We'll see.
It's F1, it's not going to rain.
No, probably not. Normally in races where it's wet, it's already rained beforehand. It never normally rains during a race.
Oh, and you know what's going to happen, don't you?
What?
About 20 minutes after the race, it's going to bloody piss it down.
Yeah, it's going to be like a type of weather you'd see in Malaysia, just an absolute flood. As just looking down the order, see if there's anything going on. Alonso, thankfully, despite that slow pit stop, has closed back up to Gasly. He's now within a second of him, only 8 tenths of a second behind. So that's something to look out for. And if Alonso could get 9th from Gasly, that'd be great. I mean, once Ocon pits, Alonso could then, if he gets past Gasly, could then get 8th, which would be a fantastic result considering the weekend he's had. As Verstappen, almost towards the end of lap 38, is 7.7 seconds clear of Leclerc and comfortable. I think, though, the only thing Ferrari could do is build a gap for Leclerc. You know, if he builds a gap to Carlos Sainz to pit and come out still in 2nd place, then Leclerc could try to do a second pit stop. But even if he did that, I don't think in these conditions, don't think would work, to be honest. Plus, we've seen people pitting for fresh tyres hasn't necessarily worked out, and I don't think soft tyres will work around this track with fuel on board.
And with the heat.
Yeah, and with the heat.
That's for sure.
They'll probably die after about 3 laps, so as Max continues on. I mean, it doesn't look any darker around the track than it did previously, so yeah, I wouldn't say rain is likely, but we'll see what happens in these final 18 laps, as he's about to come up and lap Yuki Tsunoda, I believe, as I just need to update Latifi. He has finally pitted, at the very back, and he's pitted for a set of medium compound tyres. He will finish, of course, at the very back.
I gotta say, every single lap, Leclerc is going purple in the first sector. It's ridiculous. Every lap, purple in the first sector. He just took 4 tenths out of Verstappen in the first sector. But then Max will gain it back throughout the rest of the lap.
Oh, was that contact? That might have been contact. I think it was. Has Gasly got a problem? Alonso, I think, made contact there with Gasly, and Gasly is suffering a bit. Yeah. Alonso has overtaken him, and Stroll has as well. That was a move by Alonso down to turn 1, and Gasly down to 11th position. We only caught the end of that, so I'd like to see that again, and we are about to. So Alonso moved for the inside line, and yeah, that's probably, he said, Alonso, I think he closed the door on the last minute. I don't think the door was ever open, if I'm being honest. And I wouldn't be surprised if Alonso got a 5-second penalty for that, because he's cost Gasly 2 positions now. And yeah, it's been noted.
Yeah, that's a penalty for Alonso, for sure, especially with like the new racing rules that they have. Well, I said that Verstappen usually pulls up the rest of the time on Leclerc. Well, he didn't on that last lap. Leclerc was 4 tenths faster than him and set that fastest lap of a 32.0. So yeah, a good little lap there by Charles. As these two is still a second quicker than their teammates. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. As I think the only explanation for me as to why Leclerc's pushing so hard is he might, or maybe Ferrari might be trying to force Red Bull into pushing themselves into a breakdown, obviously, because they've proven this season to be less reliable than Ferrari, so they might be just trying to push Red Bull to the limit and force Max to, push that car as hard as possible. And I think if Leclerc was to pit now, he would probably have a good chance at Gasly, I think, has a problem because he's being overtaken now, everyone, and that's going to be a safety car. Lando Norris making contact there with Gasly, and Gasly, I think, has a problem, and he's trying to let people through, basically. And Norris, with his tyre rolling down, and yep, that is a virtual safety car. Dreamland for Russell and Ocon, and the 2 Aston Martins who are yet to pit, and that pretty much sums up McLaren's day. And go on.
It just looked like he moved straight across on him. Yeah?
Well, who? Norris? Or Gasly?
Yeah. Norris.
I'll have to see a replay, but yeah, I think he did. I think he maybe thought Gasly would have, or was breaking down or something. So yeah, virtual safety car. Russell pits, so Russell will come out in 7th position, and Russell will be on the medium compound tyre. I'm pretty sure Ocon should pit in a moment. I don't know how they're going to get that car cleared without a safety car.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm surprised it's not a full safety car.
And as well,
there's also the tyre carcass there.
Yeah. Right, so it is Verstappen, Leclerc, Sainz, Perez, Bottas, Hamilton, Russell. Here's a replay. I think Gasly, yeah, he's got a puncture, hasn't he? He's got a puncture on his rear tyre or something. He lets Haas through. And then I don't know. I think I don't think he moved across on him. I think they just collided.
Yeah,
drove into each other. Yeah, they just drove into each other. Just clumsy from both of them, really. We'll see a further replay. So yeah, Gasly's going wide at turn 8. He's letting cars through at this point. I think he knows his race is pretty much done. Yeah, Norris didn't move across or anything. I think they just hit each other. So there you go. Quite a big impact, or not big impact, quite a bigger, moment. Spin and all. Ricciardo, let's get out of the way of Lando's tyre carcass. And yeah, full safety car. And the Red Bull team have just pitted Perez for a set of mediums, but the front three haven't pitted. And Perez, that's vital, comes out just ahead of Bottas and Hamilton. So Perez on fresh tyres, but
Just.
what will happen to the front three? Will they be able to pit in time?
Yeah, they'll be fine.
Yeah, they should be. Yeah, they're heading towards turn 11. No, I'm not sure. Because aren't they behind the safety car? I don't think they are. Good. Ocon now pits. Yeah, I think Verstappen's, Leclerc and Sainz are behind the safety car, so I don't think they can pit really because they'll lose position.
I mean, looking at the track map, they don't seem to be losing that much time. I mean, it'd be good if we could actually see.
Right, let me just do the orders, make sure it's correct. Daniel Ricciardo comes in, Sebastian Vettel comes. Ocon has put soft tyres on. Good luck. And so, so has Daniel Ricciardo. So yeah, good luck. 15 laps is ambitious. Right, so yes, Alonso is 8th. Mick Schumacher is 9th. Kevin Magnussen is in 10th place. There's a bit of debris there that they need to get rid of. And yeah, Max. And yeah, they can't pit because look, Perez is in the background, so they can't pit or else they'll lose position.
Yeah, and on the same straight, Perez is right at the back of the straight. You can see him there. Perez is going to be in the lead if they pit.
Yeah, so they've got to stay out, surely. And yeah, I think they're going to stay out. I don't see anything about them pitting, and no, they've stayed out. So the top three have stayed out, and Perez will be on fresh tyres. As Mercedes are out again for soft tyres, but looks as though they're coming back in. Yeah, I don't think Hamilton has the gap to do that. As we're now on lap 43. But yeah, let me just get this order correct quickly and the tyres. So the top 10 is as it says on the screen, and then it's Ocon 11th. Albon is up to 12th, but he's on the hard compound tyre. And then you've got Stroll 13th. Vettel in 14th. And then Ricciardo 15th. Gasly 16th. And then I think it's Tsunoda. Oh no, it's Latifi. Then Tsunoda. And then Norris and Zhou, sorry, are out of the race. Yeah, they're retired.
Use this to quickly relieve myself, shall I say. Be back in a moment.
Right, so now let me update those tyres. So Sergio Perez is on the medium. Be interesting to see what he does on the restart. Russell is on the medium as well. And then I think Alonso and Schumacher have stayed out. And Magnussen. No, Magnussen's pitted. I don't know why that is. So it's Ocon in 10th. Ocon on the soft compound tyre. Ocon has really benefited from all of this. Yeah, Ocon is on the soft, and then it's Albon on the hard. Stroll. I don't know what Stroll's on. The safety car is still out, by the way. It's lap 43 out of 57, and it will be out for at least one more lap. So hopefully I should be able to get this correct. But as they clear up, or they're trying at least to clear up some of the debris. Yeah, I wish they could show the tyres. That's what I want to see at the moment, because I don't know what tyres some of the bottom drivers are on. Such as Stroll, Magnussen, Vettel. Well, Ricciardo, I know, is on the soft. I think Vettel is on the soft as well. And I think Gasly as well. Awful day for the Alpha Tauri team, as we're on lap 44 now of 57. And yeah, safety car should be coming in soon. I'm going to quickly look at the F1 website to see what tyres people are on currently, because I need to get it done. I think let me put Latifi on mediums, because I think he is on mediums. I think that's correct. Safety car, I think, will probably be out for another lap. Right, so yeah, Ocon is on soft. Stroll, Magnussen, and Vettel actually are on medium. So let me punch that in. I know Ricciardo and I think Gasly are on soft. There you go. Medium for those lot. And then you're Ricciardo and Gasly on soft. And then Latifi on medium. And Tsunoda is on the soft. There you go.
How did they not hit Hamilton?
I don't know why they didn't put him. I'm guessing they didn't have the gap.
He had like a 20-second gap to the car behind. I don't know what Mercedes had done with Hamilton.
Well, they had him out. They had the tyres out, but yeah, decided not to do it. But well, Russell's on mediums. We'll see what happens. But I mean, 6th and 7th for Mercedes looks pretty secure, because the next car behind that's on soft or fresher tyres is Ocon in 10th, so they should be fine. As now lap 45 out of 57, the race should get going again in a lap or two. To be honest, I'm not expecting Leclerc to be all over the back of Max. The reason is because obviously Max has the straight line speed advantage, and lapped cars may now overtake. That is Gasly, Latifi, and Tsunoda. As I think, yeah, they've cleared the track now. So race will get going again on lap 47. And then here's a replay of Gasly. Such a shame for him, because when Ocon, if that whole incident with Alonso didn't happen, Gasly was probably on for an 8th place. And then that happened. Surprised that Alonso's not been given a penalty, because he clearly...
No, he did. He has.
Oh, yeah, has he? Good. That's good.
Yeah.
He hasn't pitted, though, so he'll take that at the end of the race. So he's going to have to push very hard in these final 10 laps to finish in the top 10. And pretty, slam dunk that Fernando was at fault. He tried to walk into a gap that wasn't there. And yeah, safety car should come in at the end of the following lap. They come down to turn 17. Are you expecting any changes of position other than like Ocon on the soft, and then you got Vettel and Ricciardo back there, and Magnussen and Stroll on softer tyres and fresher tyres? Do you expect anything else?
I don't really know, Chaz. I'm not too sure, to be honest. I think that Leclerc's actually been pretty strong on the hard compounded tyre. Where he's been super fast in the first sector, all race long, especially on this hard tyre. So, I don't know, I think that he could potentially be able to have a go at Max. Of course, it'll be critical for Verstappen to get out of the 1 second window of the DRS. But yeah, I mean, Perez, I mean, that's the big question mark, right? Because you're able to push so hard on these hard compound tyres, and these tyres have not dropped off at all in this second stint. So I'm not too sure if Perez is actually going to be able to get his way through. He might be able to get past Sainz, but I'm not too sure about Leclerc and Max.
Yeah, I think it depends on really if the front three can get their hard compound tyres fired back up. As Gasly says, I think the rear right is broken. Well, we'll find out on the restart. Probably, I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest, if he was to drop out. I actually was surprised he was still in the race. And yeah, he's dropped to 18th now. So Pierre Gasly looks as though he has fallen victim.
As a particular fan group on Twitter is very happy with how this safety car is going. Lap cars overtaking, and then one more lap, and then we go green.
Yeah, let's not go any further with that. As yeah, Pierre Gasly is pitted and he is retiring from the race. As we're about to go on lap 47 out of 57, the safety car. Now heading down to turn 17, and Max in control of the pack. I think the best thing for Max to do would be to go before entering turn 17, rather than letting Leclerc get a run out of turn 17. I think Max should have the grip to have a good turn 17. And no, he's not going to do that, Max. He's going to continue to wait. And no, he's going to go for it now. And Perez all over the back of Carlos Sainz. Sainz wiggling about. And Perez all over the back of the Spaniard. Can Perez get a move done down the inside? The third. Perez. No, not quite. But Sainz has now got a lot of cars now all over him. Well, not quite, as Perez will have to try another time. As yellow flag in sector 1. I think Stroll has had a moment. He's dropped down the order as Stroll. The Stroll is down to I think he might have had a moment with Kevin Magnussen, because Vettel is up to 12th and Ricciardo is up to 13th there. Magnussen has Stroll down to 14th and 15th. And yeah, it is as you was now. For the rest of them, Ocon, right behind a car, is Mick Schumacher. Mick defending very nicely. Look at Albon in there. 11th place, still on the hard compound tyre. What a season he's having. Heading for another great result here. If he can just keep it all together. It actually looks like he's all over the back of Ocon. And he's got an Aston Martin right on his tail. We'll see what happens there. But just want to try and update the tyre situation. And yeah, let me just quickly do that. So here we go again. Lap 48, Perez right behind Carlos Sainz. Sainz is shimmying to defend, but doesn't actually defend his position. So we're on lap 48 now of 57. And Leclerc, half a second only behind Max. Here we go. I don't think DRS is enabled yet, but he's definitely got a good run on Max down to turn 11. And no DRS, so I don't think he'll get close enough to overtake, but he's right in position here. I think, as you said, Nib, Leclerc has looked pretty good on the hard compound tyre. Certainly better than he did on the medium compound tyre, as Max pulls away in this middle sector where it is pretty hard to follow. And Perez still all over the back of Sainz, as Bottas is only just over a second behind Perez and trying to hold at bay the two silver arrows, as Perez desperately needs DRS to be enabled to get an overtake done. So does Charles Leclerc. And Sainz, oh, he's had a slight moment there. That was a nice save because he really could have lost position there. And it's now lap 49 out of 57. And Perez continues to sit behind the Ferrari. But let's see what happens with Max and Charles in the first sector. Leclerc needs those good first sectors he was showing earlier if he's going to get DRS and have a chance of fighting for victory here. Same with Perez, needs a good first sector. It looks as though he's having one. DRS enabled, so Leclerc should get DRS. He's within a second of Max, and so is Perez. Perez, the quickest man in the speed traps in qualifying, and he should be in great stead. Here he comes, down to turn 11. Not close enough, but surely down to turn 17, he'll have a great chance as Leclerc, as there's a flare there. A bit of smoke going over the barrier. And the two Mercedes are so close to one another right now. They look like they're in a closer fight than they are with Bottas, to be honest. Who's just about keeping them at bay as Tsunoda passes Nicholas Latifi. And yep, Leclerc, DRS on Verstappen. But he cannot get close enough. Neither can Perez. The two Mercedes side by side into turn 17. And Russell will try a switch back here. And Bottas! Oh, that is such a shame. He's had such a bad run out of the final corner. And the two Mercedes fly past. And Magnussen is now dropping down the field. That's such a shame. But Valtteri Bottas, Hamilton up to 5th. Russell up to 6th. As Leclerc is right now behind Max. You think he can get a move done here, Nib? Or has Max got the speed and the straights to keep him at bay?
I think Max made a little bit of a mistake in the final sector as well, to be honest with you, Chaz. But he pulls this gap in the second sector. There's Verstappen through the chicanes and all the slow stuff. So I know it's going to be difficult for Max though.
As Leclerc feigned for a move then, but I don't think he was actually that close, or as close as it showed, as Russell passes Hamilton for 5th. Obviously, on the medium tyre note, Hamilton's got him back. No, Russell's got him back, so Russell is ahead as this fight up front continues between the front load of drivers. Let me just quickly see if I can update the lap times. Is Perez close enough to have a move on Sainz? No, he is not. So Russell up to 5th on the medium compact tyre. Look at all the cars behind those two Mercedes. There's a massive train of cars there. And yeah, just a replay there of why Bottas lost.
Oh, he actually hit the wall.
And
well, Bottas actually hit the wall then.
Well, hopefully he's not got too much damage to his car. There's a replay of the two Mercedes racing side by side. Great to see. And Russell just simply having too much grip. Here, Leclerc goes again with the DRS. Max just looks too quick, though, down the straights and too far ahead. They come down to the braking zone now. Yeah, Leclerc's just not close enough. That Red Bull really pulling out all the stops to keep their main man ahead. As just one update, Vettel is up to 11th, Albon down to 12th. As yeah, Magnussen lost a couple positions in all of that. And Leclerc again will have DRS down to turn 17. And Perez also right behind Carlos Sainz, but still not close enough. Russell has pulled the gap over a second now to Hamilton. As Perez all over the back of Sainz through that final corner. Can he now get a good run down to turn 1? I don't think he can. He's not close enough. No, not close enough. Oh, he's going to go for it. Perez down the inside. And no, too deep. too deep on the brakes. As we've said offline, it's very dirty, and he couldn't get it done. But good effort. Hopefully, he can get back on his case.
He properly said that, didn't he? Jesus Christ.
Yeah. You never normally see that with him sending it, but he properly sent it right there. And just a replay of him and what he did as Leclerc continuing to hustle Max Verstappen through the middle sector. Oh, Leclerc, he's really taking risks now. I hope he doesn't do what he did in Imola. But he knows he just needs to be slightly closer, 2 or 3 tenths closer, and he could make a move stick. As they come down to turn 17, Max has just got to make sure in this corner, turn 17, that he gets the corner right, gets clean exits, because that is the only corner really I could see Leclerc getting Max at. As Leclerc with 5 full laps left, we're on lap 53 and a 57. He is giving it everything, as Perez is not really closing the gap back down to Carlos Sainz, unfortunately. He's only 1.2 seconds behind. But Leclerc still right on the tail of Max, but Max looks as though he's pulled out a gap. Hamilton saying, strategy's not been kind to me, man. Is he talking about the why didn't he pit? Is that what you're talking about, do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if he had the gap, they should have pitted him. Simple as. But they didn't. He will finish in 6th place, but to be beaten again by his teammate for the 4th race in a row if Russell finishes ahead of him. Which I can't remember the last time, maybe since 2011 or 2016, where Hamilton has been beaten 4 times in a row by a teammate, as Magnussen goes up to 14th. Verstappen continues to ace that final corner. Perez is starting as well to close the gap to Carlos Sainz, and Max, when he most needed it, does a fastest lap of the race on lap now 54, and Ocon has had some kind of issue because Sebastian Vettel has gone up to 9th, and with the with the penalty that Alonso will get, that could turn into 8th place. And oh no, Vettel now is dropping down the order, so maybe it was Vettel, I don't know. Some kind of contact or something between those two. Ocon actually is not. Mick Schumacher has dropped down, so Albon's into the points in 10th. I think that order is a bit malfunctioned. Something's happening.
Vettel went wide, I think, at the exit of turn 1/2. I'm just saying now.
Is it raining? Because there's positions swapping all over the place. Russell and Hamilton are now swapping positions as well. Here we go. The Magnussen's dive bombs Ocon. Vettel's passed them both. And then Ocon down to turn 1. Mick Schumacher's gone down the inside of Vettel. Oh no, not those two. Oh no. Why? That's cost them both. Yeah. What are you doing?
Oh dear.
That's so annoying. They both had a chance of like a 9th or an 8th. Oh, and Mick's his car's damaged now. What on earth is he doing? And yeah, he's dropped down the field, 15th and 16th. Vettel now is last. And Verstappen has now pulled over a second ahead of Leclerc. So he's done it. He's broke the DRS window. And he's just got a couple more, 2.5 more laps to go. And he will get this win. Just need to update the rest of the order, though. So you got Ocon in 9th. Albon is 10th and will finish 9th as it stands because of Alonso's penalty. Magnussen is up to 11th. Lance Stroll is up to 12th. And then 13th as Mick Schumacher just finishing a pit stop there. Ricciardo's up to 13th. And then it is... And yet Leclerc, I think, has lost the opportunity now. Yeah, it's Tsunoda in 14th. And then Latifi. And I think Vettel has retired. Yes, he has. Again, what a shame. He got up to 9th, and again, because of Alonso's penalty, he would have, if he maintained that position, would have got 8th place, and it's all just like that, gone. What a shame. And here's a replay of Hamilton and Russell. Russell must have made a mistake or something. No, this is Russell repassing Hamilton. Or something. I did see them change positions, but I don't know why that was, because Russell was already ahead of him. So something happened. But let me just quickly, for the final time today, as we're on the penultimate lap, guys, for this Grand Prix. What am I doing? I'm just trying to get the tyres right quickly. And Verstappen has a 1.5 second lead at the moment. Let me just get these final couple correct. As we're about to go on to the final lap of this Grand Prix. Nib, quick word for Max Verstappen, as there's a yellow flag in Sector 2 briefly. Quick word for Max Verstappen. What a performance he's had.
Yeah, mega performance by Max. I mean, ever since there was, I assume, some sort of graining with Leclerc's tyres in the first stint, he was able to get past and just completely control this Grand Prix. A very good drive, very important win for Red Bull and for Max. As there's some sort of investigation between Mick and Ricciardo, so we'll see what that's about. But yeah, a pretty dreadful Grand Prix, let's face it, but at least it was a little bit better in those final closing laps.
Yeah, it was. As Max Verstappen now, and I'm going to stop updating the tyre graphics because the race is basically over, and also the order keeps changing around quite a bit, as Max Verstappen on this final lap comes into the final part of the middle sector. Now 3 seconds clear of Leclerc, who of course is backed off, and now enters the final short straight turn 17. Max had to win at Imola to start closing on the gap on Leclerc, and he did, and here had to continue that momentum for the championship, and it looks as though with the fastest lap point as well that he has, as Max Verstappen will come round the final 2 corners to win the first ever Miami Grand Prix in 2022, and Charles Leclerc will come home to finish in second. The gap in the championship down to 19 points between Leclerc and Max. Sainz finishes in 3rd. Perez will finish in 4th, and then it will be Russell 5th. Soon enough. Yes, it is. Russell 5th. And then Hamilton in 6th. 7th will be Valtteri Bottas. And then I think Albon's going to miss out on 9th, despite Alonso's penalty. So I think it'll be Ocon in 8th, Alonso 9th, and Albon 10th. And then Ricciardo, Stroll, Tsunoda, Latifi, Magnussen, Schumacher, with your retirements being Vettel, Gasly, Norris, and Zhou Guan Yu. And yet Max Verstappen, fastest lap of the race, gets the extra point. And like I said, the gap is down from 27 points to 19, with the Spanish Grand Prix being the next Grand Prix on the calendar. Right, quickly, before we go, Nib, driver of the day and rating out of 10 for the race. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 because of what happened after the safety car. Not great, but it was, spiced up a bit towards the end. And my driver of the day, I'd have to go for Max. Just way too good today. Who are you going for?
Yeah, that's a difficult one. I'd probably go Max, and then if it's not Max, probably Albon.
Yeah.
And then a rating. Honestly, if I wasn't living on a European time schedule, I would have fallen asleep during that Grand Prix. So for that, I'm giving it a 3.
Yeah, I don't blame you. The mid part of the race was definitely pretty poor, but yeah, Max Verstappen wins the official driver of the day vote. And guys, that is it for this race watch along. And yeah, Nib, thanks for coming on, mate. Great to do this with you again. And yeah, we'll be back in 2 or 3 weeks' time.
Yep. Thanks for having me on once again. It's been great. It feels like it's been such a long time since we've done this. And yeah, we'll be back for the Spanish Grand Prix.
Are you watching? Did you just see that on the TV broadcast? This Magnussen Stroll thing.
Oh my god!
That is classic Kevin Magnussen. Oh god! And then, right, he's finished 15th anyway. Yeah, thanks for coming on, mate. And yeah, we'll do this again very, very soon. Again, guys, I will be live in, it's 10 past 10, so the race obviously went a bit longer than I thought it would. So I'll be live in about 30 to 35 minutes at about 10:45 p.m. UK time, so 10:45 p.m. UK time for you guys. And again, come along to that to react with me to the events of the Miami Grand Prix. And if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, because of course we do qualifying and race watch-alongs plenty on the channel. So yeah, bottom right of the screen, you can subscribe there. And as well, smash the like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can to help the channel grow. And follow me on Twitter at ChazHD5. And don't forget to join my Discord server, link below in the description, to join my community. But guys, until my race reaction stream in half an hour, and until the next watch along for the next Grand Prix, it has been me, ChazHD. Goodbye.